Chosen one, your soulmate just unlocked a hidden truth. The photo explains everything. God says, my child, listen carefully. I have brought you here for a reason. This moment is not an accident. Your heart has carried questions that no one else could answer. You have prayed in silence. You have waited through long nights. You have wondered why love felt so close, yet so far away. Today I want you to slow your thoughts and listen with peace instead of fear. There is something your soulmate has just seen that changed everything inside them. It was not a loud miracle. It was not a voice from heaven. It began with a single photograph that seemed ordinary at first. Yet the longer they looked, the more they realized they had been running from a truth that I had quietly placed before them. My beloved child, this message is not about forcing tomorrow to happen today. It is about seeing how I work through simple moments that many people overlook. If these words are touching your heart, gently write Amen in the comments as your quiet prayer of faith. Then stay with me, because what that photo revealed is only the beginning of what I want you to understand. My child, there were many days when your soulmate believed they had buried their deepest feelings. They smiled when people expected them to smile. They stayed busy because silence made them uncomfortable. They convinced themselves that forgetting you was the safest choice. Yet every time they tried to move forward without healing, something inside remained unfinished. I never stopped working in their heart. Even when they could not recognize my hand, I was removing pride one piece at a time. I was replacing fear with honesty. I was teaching them that real love cannot grow where truth is hidden. They did not understand why familiar places suddenly reminded them of you. They could not explain why certain songs felt different. They only knew that something inside refused to stay asleep. That quiet change prepared them for a moment they never expected. My child, it happened on a peaceful evening. The room was almost silent. Soft light came through the window. Their phone rested in their hand. They were not searching for you. They were simply looking through old pictures while cleaning their gallery. Most photos brought ordinary memories. Some made them smile. Others meant nothing anymore. Then their fingers stopped moving. One picture remained on the screen. They could not explain why they suddenly felt unable to look away. Their breathing became slower. Their heart felt heavier. The picture seemed familiar, yet different than before. It was not because the image had changed. They had changed. And because they had changed, they finally noticed something that had been waiting there all along. My beloved child, you may think I only speak through miracles that everyone can see. But I often whisper through quiet details. In that photograph there was no glowing light. There was no dramatic sign. There was simply a forgotten moment where genuine joy lived without pretending. Your soulmate noticed the way your eyes carried peace instead of pressure. They noticed your gentle smile that asked for nothing in return. They remembered how safe they once felt without realizing it. They remembered conversations they dismissed too quickly. They remembered kindness they never thanked you for. Suddenly the picture stopped being an image. It became a mirror. They no longer saw only your face. They saw the version of themselves that had been closest to becoming the person I created them to be. My child, this realization did not fill them with instant happiness. It filled them with quiet regret. Tears slowly gathered in their eyes. They placed the phone down, then picked it up again. They zoomed in on the photograph as though searching for something they had missed years ago. Their hands trembled. Not because they were afraid of you. Because they were finally honest with themselves. They whispered words no one else heard. How did I miss this? The room remained silent. Yet I heard every question. I knew this moment would come long before either of you understood why waiting was necessary. Sometimes truth cannot enter a heart until pride leaves first. My beloved child, you have asked me many times why I allowed distance. You wondered if I had forgotten your prayers. I never did. Separation was never meant to destroy hope. It was meant to prepare both hearts for truth. If I had brought you together before healing began, old fears would have spoken louder than love. Your soulmate carried wounds they refused to face. You carried questions that only trust could answer. I was healing both of you at the same time, even when neither of you could see the full picture. The photograph became important because it arrived after hidden healing had already started. Without that inner change, they would have looked at the same image and felt nothing. My child, that night they opened an old Bible that had been resting on a shelf for months. Dust covered the edges. The pages felt familiar beneath their fingertips. They did not open it with perfect faith. They opened it with an honest heart. That is enough for me. They prayed a simple prayer. Lord, if I have ignored something you wanted me to see, please help me understand. I welcome that prayer with love. I do not reject humble hearts. I strengthen them. As they sat in that quiet room, peace slowly replaced confusion. Not every answer arrived at once. But the first wall around their heart began to fall. My beloved child, while you were living your own days, I was also preparing you. You did not know why certain doors closed. You did not know why some relationships ended. You wondered why your prayers sometimes seemed delayed. Yet every unanswered question became part of your growth. I was teaching you patience that could survive disappointment. I was teaching you peace that did not depend on circumstances. The same God who was shaping your soulmate was also shaping you. Neither process was wasted. Both were necessary. Both were filled with my love, even when they felt difficult. My child, around this time you may have noticed unusual peace entering your heart without explanation. Perhaps you woke one morning feeling lighter. Perhaps worship music touched you more deeply than before. Perhaps you found yourself praying with less fear and more trust. These were not random emotions. They were gentle reminders that I was already moving where your eyes could not yet see. Many people only believe me after they receive answers. I invite you to trust me while the answers are still growing. That faith opens doors fear can never unlock. Remember this number today, 777. Let it remind you not of guaranteed outcomes, but of choosing to keep your heart focused on me instead of your worries. My beloved child, your soulmate has not forgotten that photograph. They have returned to it more than once. Each time they notice another detail. A quiet expression. A small gesture. A moment they once rushed past. They now understand that love was never asking them to become someone perfect. Love was inviting them to become someone honest. That discovery has started changing the way they pray. Instead of asking me to remove uncomfortable feelings, they have begun asking me to transform them through those feelings. That is where true healing begins. It always starts with surrendered hearts. My child, there is another truth hidden inside that same photograph, and your soulmate has only begun to recognize it. They noticed something in the background that seemed unimportant before. At first they almost ignored it. Then they looked again. A small wooden cross hanging quietly behind you reflected the evening light. They suddenly remembered the conversation that happened only minutes after that picture was taken. Until now, they believed they remembered every part of that day. But as the memory returned, another forgotten sentence came back with it, and when those words echoed in their heart again, they realized the photograph had never explained everything by itself. It had only opened the door to the truth I am about to reveal. Type Amen if you choose to trust my timing, and wait with hope, because what they remembered next will change the meaning of that photograph forever. My child, listen carefully. The sentence your soulmate remembered was not loud. It did not sound dramatic when it was first spoken. In fact, almost everyone around them had forgotten it by the next day. But I never forget words that are spoken from a sincere heart. As they continued looking at that photograph, the memory returned with surprising clarity. They remembered you standing beside that small wooden cross. They remembered the quiet smile on your face. Then they heard your gentle voice again. You had softly said, "If God wants something to stay in our lives, no fear will be strong enough to take it away." At that moment they had smiled politely, but deep inside they were still controlled by fear. They believed protecting themselves was wiser than trusting me. Now, months later, those same words entered their heart in a completely different way. They realized you were never trying to convince them to choose you. You were simply encouraging them to trust me. That realization humbled them more than they expected. They placed the phone against their chest and closed their eyes. The silence around them no longer felt empty. It felt holy. They finally understood that the photograph had preserved more than a memory. It had preserved a truth they were only ready to receive now. My beloved child, this is one of the quiet ways I work. I allow truth to wait until hearts become soft enough to embrace it. Nothing I do is rushed. Nothing is forgotten. Every moment has purpose, even when you cannot yet understand it. Your soulmate remained seated for a long time. They did not answer messages. They did not turn on the television. They simply allowed their heart to become honest before me. That honesty became the beginning of healing they had resisted for so long. My child, healing is not always loud. Sometimes healing is a person finally admitting they were wrong. Sometimes healing is a tear that no one else sees. Sometimes healing is the courage to stop pretending everything is fine. Your soulmate had spent too much time hiding behind excuses. They blamed timing. They blamed circumstances. They blamed distance. Yet as they looked at that picture again, they realized the greatest obstacle had been fear. Fear whispered that vulnerability would lead to disappointment. Fear convinced them that protecting their heart meant closing it. But my perfect love always invites hearts to open instead of hiding. As they prayed that evening, they asked me to remove every lie they had believed. I answered with peace instead of pressure. I reminded them that grace is greater than regret. I reminded them that I am able to restore what human weakness cannot repair. My beloved child, while this was happening, you were also experiencing something you could not explain. Perhaps you felt a quiet desire to pray for someone without knowing why. Perhaps a familiar name crossed your mind during worship. Perhaps you looked at an old photograph yourself but quickly put it away because you thought the season had already passed. You did not know that I was connecting two hearts through prayer instead of panic. I was teaching both of you that love rooted in me grows stronger through patience than through urgency. My child, never believe that waiting means I am absent. I often do my deepest work while everything appears still. Seeds grow in hidden places before anyone sees the harvest. The roots become strong before branches reach toward the sky. In the same way, I strengthen hearts before I reveal what I have prepared. That is why I kept both of you under my care instead of allowing emotions alone to decide the future. My beloved child, after reading a few verses from Scripture, your soulmate reached for a notebook they had not opened in months. Most of its pages were empty. They slowly began writing words they never planned to write. They wrote about mistakes they wished they could undo. They wrote about conversations they should have handled differently. They wrote about the peace they felt whenever they remembered your kindness. Then they stopped writing for a moment. Their eyes returned to the photograph again. One quiet sentence formed in their heart. Lord, thank you for not letting me forget what truly mattered. Those words were not spoken to impress anyone. They came from genuine surrender. I treasure prayers like that. They are simple. They are honest. They open the heart to my guidance. My child, you may wonder why I chose a photograph instead of a dramatic event. It is because I delight in revealing eternal truths through ordinary moments. A photograph cannot speak with a human voice. Yet I can awaken forgotten memories through it. I can remind hearts of promises they ignored. I can uncover hidden gratitude buried beneath years of distraction. The picture became a doorway because I was the one gently opening it. That is why your soulmate no longer sees it as an old image. They now see it as a reminder that my timing reaches beyond human understanding. My beloved child, another detail soon captured their attention. They noticed something resting near your hand that they had completely overlooked before. It was a folded prayer card from the church. The words on its front were partially visible. They could only read one sentence. Trust him even. The rest of the sentence disappeared beneath your hand. Yet those 3 words were enough to stir another memory. They suddenly remembered asking you that day how you stayed peaceful during uncertain seasons. You smiled gently before answering. Because God is already working before I see the answer. At that time they nodded politely without truly believing it. Today those words sounded different. They sounded alive. They sounded personal. They sounded like the answer they had been searching for all along. My child, I have never stopped speaking. The question has always been whether hearts are ready to listen. Your soulmate is finally listening. Not because life became easy. Not because every question disappeared. They are listening because they have discovered that my peace is more valuable than temporary certainty. That change is transforming them from the inside out. Pride is becoming humility. Restlessness is becoming patience. Fear is becoming quiet faith. Those changes cannot be forced by human effort. They are the gentle work of my Spirit. My beloved child, there is something I also want you to remember today. Do not measure my faithfulness by the speed of visible results. Measure it by my unchanging character. I have remained beside you during every unanswered prayer. I have stayed close during every lonely night. I have collected every tear you believed no one noticed. I have heard every whispered prayer spoken beneath your breath. None of them have been wasted. Each one has become part of a beautiful work that is still unfolding. If this message brings hope to your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. You never know whose faith may be strengthened by the peace I have given you. My child, before your soulmate finally placed the photograph away, they whispered one more prayer. This prayer was different from every prayer before it. They did not ask me to erase the past. They did not ask me to change another person's heart. They simply said, Lord, change me first. Heaven always rejoices when a heart chooses surrender over control. That quiet prayer became the beginning of another beautiful chapter of healing. Yet even after closing the phone, one question remained in their heart. Why had that photograph been taken at that exact moment, only seconds before someone standing just outside the camera frame quietly witnessed something neither of you realized would one day explain everything? That hidden witness, and what they saw immediately after the picture was captured, is the next truth I am preparing to reveal. My child, listen closely. The person standing just beyond the edge of that photograph never intended to become part of this moment. They were not posing for the camera. They were simply passing by. Yet I allowed them to witness something that neither you nor your soulmate noticed that day. As the picture was taken, your soulmate looked toward you for only a brief second. It was a quiet glance. Almost impossible to remember without help. But the witness remembered it clearly because they saw a look that could not be hidden. It was not the look of someone pretending to care. It was the look of a heart trying to protect feelings it did not know how to express. My beloved child, truth often leaves small footprints before it becomes fully visible. That single glance remained hidden in someone's memory until the right season arrived. I never waste moments that appear ordinary. I preserve them with perfect care. While years passed, that memory stayed safely where I allowed it to rest. Your soulmate did not realize their own eyes had already confessed what their mouth refused to say. Their fear remained louder than their honesty. Yet fear has never been stronger than my purpose. I watched over every detail because I knew one day they would finally become ready to face what was always true. My child, after discovering the deeper meaning behind the photograph, your soulmate quietly reached out to the person who had been there that day. It was not an emotional conversation at first. They simply asked, do you remember when this picture was taken? The reply came several hours later. They expected a short answer. Instead, they received words that made their hands tremble once again. The person answered, "I remember more than the picture. I remember the way you looked at them after everyone else turned away." Those words stopped every excuse. They could no longer convince themselves that their feelings had been imagined. Someone else had seen the truth long before they were willing to admit it. My beloved child, I sometimes confirm hidden truth through faithful witnesses. Not to embarrass anyone. Not to create shame. But to bring healing where denial has lived too long. The witness continued writing. They said, "I almost told you that day, but I felt it was something you needed to understand yourself." Those words filled your soulmate with quiet tears. They realized that even while they were running from love, I had placed people around them who recognized what was happening. Yet I never forced the answer upon them. Love always leaves room for willing surrender. My child, after reading that message, they stood beside the window for a long time. Gentle rain touched the glass. The sky grew darker. Streetlights slowly came alive across the road. They whispered, "Lord, you were working even then." Yes, my child. I was. Long before this moment. Long before today's prayer. Long before your doubts became heavy. I had already begun arranging quiet pieces of restoration. My timing is never rushed. It is never careless. Every delay has carried purpose. Every silence has protected something you could not yet see. My beloved child, perhaps you have wondered why certain conversations ended without closure. Perhaps you wished someone had simply spoken honestly years ago. I understand those questions. But there are moments when hearts hear truth only after they become humble enough to receive it. If I had exposed everything too early, pride would have rejected it. Now humility welcomes it. That is why today's understanding carries peace instead of pressure. My child, your soulmate returned once more to that photograph. This time they no longer searched for hidden clues. They simply looked at your face. They noticed peace. They noticed kindness. They noticed quiet strength. Then another realization entered their heart. They remembered that while everyone else was busy talking about themselves, you had been asking others how they were doing. You noticed lonely people. You encouraged those who felt forgotten. You carried compassion without needing attention. My beloved child, that memory explains something your soulmate never understood before. They had mistaken gentleness for weakness. Now they recognized it as strength shaped by my love. That truth changed the way they remembered every conversation they ever had with you. My child, healing often begins when people stop asking, "What did I lose?" and start asking, "What did I fail to value?" Your soulmate is asking that question now. Not with despair. With gratitude. Gratitude opens doors that regret never can. Instead of remaining trapped inside old mistakes, they are allowing my grace to teach them. Grace does not erase the past. It transforms the heart that remembers it. My beloved child, while all this was unfolding, I was gently strengthening your own heart. You may not have realized why certain painful memories suddenly lost their power over you. You may have noticed yourself smiling more easily, sleeping more peacefully, trusting me more deeply. Those quiet changes were not random. They were evidence that I have been healing you from places even you could not fully describe. I never heal only one heart when my purpose includes two. I prepare both with wisdom. I prepare both with love. My child, later that evening your soulmate opened the photograph one final time before resting. They whispered your name softly, not as an obsession, but as a prayer. Then they said, Lord, if this connection still belongs inside your will, teach me to become the person who can protect it instead of fear it. That prayer pleased me because it focused first on transformation instead of possession. Real love always begins there. It begins with surrendered hearts. It grows through faithful obedience. My beloved child, before they fell asleep, they noticed something else hidden inside the image that had escaped their attention until now. Reflected in the glass behind you was another figure standing several steps away. The reflection was faint, almost invisible. Yet once they saw it, they remembered exactly who it was. That person heard a conversation after the photograph was taken, a conversation containing words that neither you nor your soulmate realized would one day unlock the final meaning behind this picture. Those forgotten words are now closer than ever to being remembered, and when they return completely, the hidden truth you have been waiting to understand will become even clearer than the photograph itself. My child, listen carefully. The faint reflection in the glass was not placed there by chance. I allowed it to remain unnoticed until the right season because hearts often need time before they can carry the full weight of truth. Your soulmate enlarged the photograph again. They looked at the reflection several times. Then the memory finally became clear. The person standing there had quietly witnessed a conversation that lasted less than 2 minutes. It seemed unimportant back then. No one imagined those simple words would one day unlock so many hidden emotions. My beloved child, the more your soulmate remembered, the more they realized that I had surrounded them with reminders of my faithfulness long before they understood my plan. They had been searching for dramatic signs while I had been speaking through ordinary moments. That realization filled them with peaceful tears instead of painful regret. They lowered their head and whispered, Lord, you never stopped reaching for me. My child, I never did. Even when you could not recognize my hand, I remained beside you. Even when fear became louder than faith, my love continued working in quiet places your eyes could not reach. My beloved child, the next morning your soulmate woke earlier than usual. The room was still quiet. Soft morning light slowly entered through the curtains. They picked up their phone almost immediately, not because they wanted another answer, but because they wanted to see the photograph once more. Yet something inside had changed overnight. They were no longer looking at it with confusion. They were looking at it with gratitude. They realized that every hidden detail inside the picture pointed toward one simple truth. Real love had never disappeared. It had simply waited for honesty. That understanding gave them peace they had not felt in a very long time. They smiled gently, then closed their eyes and thanked me for giving them another chance to grow instead of another reason to fear. My child, while your soulmate was praying, the the person reflected in the photograph unexpectedly sent them a message. It was short. It simply read, "I found something while cleaning yesterday. I think it belongs to you." Those words created quiet curiosity. They replied with kindness instead of impatience. A few hours later they received another picture. It showed the back of the original printed photograph. Until that moment they had only been looking at the digital copy. They had completely forgotten that someone had written something on the back years ago. Their heart began beating faster. Not with panic. With wonder. They opened the image carefully. There, written in faded blue ink, was a sentence almost erased by time. Some moments only make sense after God finishes His work. My beloved child, your soulmate stared at those words without speaking. They could not remember who had written them. But they knew exactly why those words mattered now. I had preserved that message through the passing of years because I knew the day would come when they were finally ready to understand it. My child, many people believe forgotten things lose their purpose. But I am the God who brings forgotten truth back into the light at exactly the right time. Nothing that serves my purpose is ever truly lost. Sometimes it simply waits. Just as seeds wait beneath the soil before spring arrives, certain answers remain hidden until hearts are prepared to receive them. Your soulmate finally understood that the photograph had never been about the picture alone. It was about timing. It was about healing. It was about becoming the kind of person who could recognize love without being controlled by fear. That discovery filled them with hope instead of pressure. They stopped asking, "Why did this happen?" They began asking, "Lord, what are you teaching me through this?" Those are the questions that lead hearts toward peace. My beloved child, I also want you to hear something today. Do not believe the lie that waiting means your life has been standing still. While you have been praying, forgiving, growing, and learning to trust me again, I have been shaping your future with careful hands. Every quiet prayer has mattered. Every act of obedience has mattered. Every moment you chose faith over bitterness has mattered. You could not always see the progress because much of my work happens beneath the surface. Yet unseen growth is still real growth. Just because roots are hidden does not mean they are not becoming stronger. That same truth has been working inside your soulmate. They are no longer the person they were when that photograph was first taken. Pride has become humility. Restlessness has become patience. Self-protection has slowly become surrender. Those changes did not happen in one day. They happened one prayer at a time. My child, later that afternoon your soulmate visited the small church where the photograph had been taken. It looked almost exactly the same. The wooden cross still stood quietly near the front. Sunlight entered through the stained glass windows just as it had years before. They walked slowly through the empty room. Every step awakened another memory. They remembered laughter. They remembered quiet conversations. They remembered the peaceful feeling they once ignored because they believed there would always be another opportunity. Now they understood that every moment is a gift. They sat in one of the wooden pews and allowed silence to surround them. Silence no longer frightened them. It became a place where my voice could finally be heard without distraction. My beloved child, as they sat there, an elderly church volunteer recognized them. She smiled warmly and walked over with gentle steps. After a brief conversation, she said something unexpected. "I always wondered if you would come back one day." Your soulmate looked surprised. She continued softly, "I remember that picture. I remember how peaceful both of you looked. I prayed that God would finish whatever He started in your hearts." Those simple words carried no judgment. They carried hope. Your soulmate thanked her with tears in their eyes. They realized another person had quietly been praying over a moment they believed everyone else had forgotten. My child, never underestimate the quiet prayers of faithful people. Sometimes they become part of the answer long before anyone realizes it. My beloved child, your soulmate left the church carrying a different heart than the one they brought inside. They did not leave with every answer. They left with trust. There is a difference. Answers satisfy curiosity for a moment. Trust carries peace through every season. They understood that my plan could never be rushed by fear or delayed by faithfulness. They simply needed to keep walking with me one step at a time. That realization became more valuable than any quick solution. It became the foundation of lasting hope. My child, as evening arrived once again, your soulmate opened the photograph one final time for that day. They smiled instead of crying. They no longer searched for hidden mistakes. They searched for evidence of my grace. And they found it everywhere. In the smile you carried. In the cross behind you. In the faded sentence written on the back. In the witness who remembered the truth. In the quiet prayers offered by others. Every detail pointed toward the same reality. I had been present from the beginning. Nothing had escaped my attention. Nothing had fallen outside my loving care. My beloved child, there is still one hidden piece connected to that photograph that has not yet come into the light. It is not another image. It is not another witness. It is a small object that was placed into someone's hands only moments after the picture was taken. For years it remained tucked away, unopened and almost forgotten. Yet the time for it to be discovered is drawing near. When its contents are finally revealed, your soulmate will understand why that single photograph has always explained far more than either of you could have imagined, and I will show both of you how my perfect timing has quietly connected every hidden piece from the very beginning. My child, listen closely. The small object was not valuable because of what it was made of. It was valuable because of what it quietly protected. Your soulmate could still remember someone placing it into their hands just moments after the photograph had been taken. At the time, they slipped it into the pocket of a jacket without giving it another thought. Life became busy. Seasons changed. The jacket was packed away inside a storage box. Years passed. The object remained hidden, waiting for the day when my timing would bring it back into the light. I never forgot where it was. I never forgot why I allowed it to remain unseen. Some answers are not delayed because I have forgotten my children. They are delayed because hearts must be prepared before those answers can become blessings instead of burdens. My beloved child, that evening your soulmate could not shake the feeling that something was still unfinished. The photograph had already revealed more truth than they imagined possible. The witness had confirmed what their heart had tried to deny. The words written behind the picture had brought peace instead of confusion. Yet my spirit continued whispering gently, "There is one more piece." They did not feel fear. They felt quiet expectation. They walked toward the closet where several old boxes rested on the highest shelf. Dust covered the lids. They smiled softly, realizing how many forgotten things had remained untouched for so long. One by one they lowered the boxes to the floor. Old books appeared. Childhood keepsakes appeared. Letters they thought they had lost appeared. Every object carried a memory, but none of them felt like the one I was leading them toward. My child, after searching for several minutes, they found the old jacket. The fabric had faded. The pockets felt almost empty. They nearly placed it aside before deciding to check one last time. Their fingers touched something small hidden deep inside the lining. They slowly pulled it out. It was a tiny folded church prayer card, worn around the edges but carefully preserved. The moment they saw it, another forgotten memory returned. They remembered the church volunteer smiling as she handed it to them after the picture had been taken. She had said only one sentence. "Keep this until God shows you why it matters." At the time those words sounded kind, but ordinary. Now they echoed with new meaning. "My beloved child," your soulmate unfolded the prayer card with trembling hands. Time had faded the ink, yet every word remained readable. On the front was a verse reminding every believer that I complete the good work I begin. They smiled gently as peace settled over their heart. Then they turned the card over. Written neatly on the back was a personal note. They did not remember reading it before. Perhaps they never had. It simply said, "One day you will understand that what God joins together first grows through truth before it grows through closeness." My child, those words did not promise immediate outcomes. They pointed toward my character. I never build lasting relationships on fear, pride, or confusion. I build them upon honesty, healing, patience, and trust. My beloved child, your soulmate read the sentence several times. Each reading uncovered another layer of understanding. They realized they had spent years asking me to remove uncertainty while ignoring the invitation to become more truthful. Yet truth had quietly been waiting for them all along. Not hidden because I wanted to keep it away, but protected until they were ready to receive it. Their eyes filled with grateful tears. They no longer felt the heavy weight of regret. Instead, they felt hope growing stronger than shame. That is what my grace does. Grace does not pretend the past never happened. Grace transforms the heart that remembers it. My child, at that very moment, you were spending time with me in your own quiet way. Perhaps you were reading scripture before bed. Perhaps you were sitting beside a window watching the evening sky change colors. Perhaps worship music played softly in the background while your thoughts became calmer than they had been in weeks. You did not know why peace was becoming easier to hold. You simply knew it was different. That peace was not an accident. I was gently preparing your heart to recognize my goodness without depending on perfect circumstances. Real peace is not built on having every answer. It is built on knowing that I remain faithful even while answers are still unfolding. My beloved child, after placing the prayer card beside the photograph, your soulmate noticed how naturally both belong together. The picture showed what love looked like before fear interrupted it. The prayer card explained what love needed in order to become stronger. Truth, healing, patience. Those two simple reminders completed each other. One spoke through an image. The other spoke through words. Together they revealed something beautiful. I had been leaving gentle reminders in every season, inviting your soulmate back toward trust one step at a time. My child, the next morning they decided to return the storage boxes to their places. Before closing the final box, they noticed an old envelope resting underneath several books. It carried no stamp. It had never been mailed. Curious, they opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note they had started writing years ago but never finished. The handwriting belonged to them. The first few lines spoke honestly about confusion, fear, and the desire to stop running from what mattered most. Halfway through the page the writing suddenly stopped, as though fear had interrupted the words before they could be completed. Your soulmate stared quietly at the unfinished letter. They realized something that made them smile through tears. Long before they admitted the truth aloud, their own heart had already been trying to confess it. My beloved child, unfinished letters often reveal what guarded hearts cannot say. That old page was not important because it contained perfect words. It mattered because it proved that my spirit had already been working inside your soulmate even during seasons they believed they were completely lost. I had not abandoned them. I had been patiently leading them toward honesty. Every quiet conviction. Every restless night. Every memory that refused to disappear. All of it had been part of my loving invitation to return to truth. My child, your soulmate folded the unfinished letter carefully and placed it beside the photograph and the prayer card. 3 simple items now rested together on the table. A picture. A prayer card. An unfinished letter. They looked ordinary to anyone else. Yet together they formed a testimony of my faithfulness. The photograph reminded them where healing quietly began. The prayer card reminded them to trust my timing. The unfinished letter reminded them that even hidden desires become visible before me. Nothing had been wasted. Nothing had been meaningless. My beloved child, as they prayed once more, they did not ask me to rewrite yesterday. They thanked me for redeeming it. That prayer carried more peace than any prayer they had spoken before. I filled their heart with quiet assurance. Not assurance that every question would disappear overnight, but assurance that my hand had never left either of you. My plans are never built upon accidents. They are built upon perfect wisdom, patient grace, and enduring love. Even when people misunderstand my timing, my purpose continues moving forward with gentle certainty. My child, I want you to carry this truth today. Never underestimate the simple things I place along your path. A photograph. A handwritten note. A quiet prayer. A verse remembered at the right moment. I often use what seems ordinary to reveal what is eternal. The greatest changes rarely begin with loud announcements. They begin when hearts become willing to listen again. That willingness has now awakened inside your soulmate, and the next step I am preparing will reveal why the unfinished letter was never meant to remain unfinished forever. God says, my child, listen carefully. You have now seen why I allowed one simple photograph to remain hidden in your journey for so long. It was never just a picture. It became a quiet testimony that I was present in every season, even when you could not recognize my hand. The photograph revealed a heart that had been changing in silence. The witness confirmed a truth that fear could no longer hide. The prayer card reminded both of you that my timing is always wiser than human understanding. The unfinished letter showed that healing had already begun long before either of you realized it. My beloved child, this is the hidden truth your soulmate finally unlocked. The photograph explained everything because it pointed beyond itself. It pointed to my faithfulness. It pointed to my grace. It pointed to the love that I was patiently refining instead of rushing. I never asked either of you to become perfect. I simply invited both of you to become honest before me. That honesty has brought peace where confusion once lived. It has replaced fear with trust. It has replaced regret with hope. My child, continue praying instead of worrying. Continue trusting instead of forcing. Continue walking with me one faithful step at a time. Whether the next chapter arrives sooner or later, never forget that your greatest blessing has always been my presence beside you. I have carried you through every unanswered prayer. I have remained close through every lonely night. I have never stopped working where you could not yet see. What I begin, I complete according to my perfect wisdom. So release every burden you have been carrying. Release every fear that tells you I have forgotten you. Release every doubt that whispers your waiting has been meaningless. It has not. Every prayer has been heard. Every tear has been seen. Every lesson has prepared you for greater peace. My beloved child, let this message remain in your heart long after these words end. Whenever life feels uncertain, remember that photograph. Remember that I often reveal my greatest truths through the quietest moments. Trust me when you cannot see the whole picture. I already do. Walk forward with confidence, forgive freely, love with wisdom, and rest in the assurance that my plans are always filled with hope. If this message has strengthened your faith today, share it with someone who also needs hope and encouragement. Let them know they are never walking alone. And before you leave, type Amen as your simple declaration that you choose to trust my perfect timing, my unfailing love, and my faithful guidance today and always. Peace be with you, my child.